Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. We were at Olive Garden when she said it. Touch doesn't mean loyalty. She said it like she was quoting a podcast, not killing something real. The waiter stood there awkwardly, holding a plate of Alfredo like it was evidence. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her, at the woman who used to pull me in at night and ask if I felt safe with her. Now she looked more like a brand than a person. Everything about her, hair, smile, tone, was curated for the camera. Lena had 3 million followers. Digital intimacy, she called it. It's not cheating, she said once. It's content. But when a man pays monthly to see your body, talks to you in private chats, and sends you gifts through Discord, what else is it? That night, after she said that line, I stopped listening. I watched her scroll through her iPhone, tapping through messages with her fans. I knew one of them, Evan by name. I'd seen his username too many times on her phone. His tips were always pinned. His comments, flirty, territorial. I paid for dinner and drove us home in silence. She was already posting a story before we hit the first red light. The reflection of the screen flashed across her face, blue and cold. When we got home, she lit a Target candle, poured wine, and said she needed to film a few clips for her subscribers. I stayed in the office, in front of my monitors. I'm a cybersecurity engineer. My job is to protect secrets, to secure what people want hidden. Funny how my own life became the breach I couldn't patch. When she went to bed, I checked the logs. Her cloud, her private folder, her chat accounts. I knew every layer of encryption she used, every fake name, every timestamp. The code doesn't lie, and neither did she. It was all there, buried under gigabytes of polished illusion. I didn't confront her. I just saved everything and looked at the screen until sunrise. By morning, something in me had shifted. Not rage, just silence. I brewed my coffee, deleted my social accounts, and turned off my notifications. The first step wasn't leaving her. It was leaving the noise. She thought silence meant weakness. She was about to learn it meant extinction. The first sign came from someone else, not her. A colleague from work, Mark, sent me a link one night. No message, just a URL. I hesitated, then clicked. It opened a streaming clip from an anonymous account. The camera angle was the same as our bedroom wall. The background lights, our lights. The voice, hers. Not explicit, but intimate enough that I felt the floor shift beneath me. Mark didn't know what he'd sent me. He just said, saw this trending on Discord. Thought the setup looked familiar. I thanked him and closed the chat. He never mentioned it again. I sat in the dark for an hour, staring at the reflection of the screen on the window. She was asleep upstairs, wrapped in the same blanket that now felt borrowed from strangers. Every movement, every whisper, sold for tips. She called it interaction. She said her audience felt close. I opened her stream analytics. My skills made it easy. I didn't hack her. I just walked through doors she left open. Thousands of subscribers. A handful of top donors. And one name that appeared more often than any other, Evan. He wasn't just a fan. He was an investor in her fantasy. Her messages to him were the kind that leave no fingerprints. Short, suggestive, just enough to blur the line between performance and confession. You make me feel seen, she wrote once. You understand me. I read it 3 times before closing the tab. The next morning, she made pancakes and acted normal. The phone on the counter never stopped vibrating. She smiled at the screen more than she smiled at me. I could almost hear the tips rolling in. When she left for a content shoot, I drove to Waffle House and sat there for 2 hours. I didn't eat much. I just watched people talk without filters, without cameras. I missed that kind of noise, the human kind. Something broke quietly inside me that day. Not anger, not betrayal. Just the recognition that she didn't belong to me anymore. Maybe she hadn't for a long time. When she came home, she smelled like perfume and ring lights. She said the shoot went viral. I just nodded and turned back to my laptop. She didn't notice the small external drive beside me, the one already syncing her data. She still thought I was a man trying to understand her work. She didn't realize I was already preparing to erase us. I used to believe data told the truth. Every code, every timestamp, every pattern, proof that nothing hides forever. But when I opened her folders, I realized truth doesn't scream. It whispers. The files weren't obvious. They were buried under names like collab_drafts and promo_videos. Each one had metadata, timestamps that matched nights she said she was editing. The same nights I waited for her beside a cold dinner, watching her iPhone light up with messages from people who didn't know her real last name. I didn't need to watch everything. The first clip told me enough. It wasn't physical betrayal. It was something worse. She looked into the lens the way she used to look at me. That slow, private focus. The difference was, now it was for everyone. There were transaction logs too, payments routed through her secondary account. I recognized the pattern instantly. Micro-transfers from anonymous wallets, disguised as donations. But one sender wasn't anonymous. Evan. His username was linked to his real email. I didn't click it. I didn't need to. I already knew who he was. I backed up everything to an encrypted drive, then disconnected the network. I wasn't building a case. I was building closure. That night, she came into my office wearing her stream look, casual but too perfect. She said she wanted to connect, but her tone was practiced, soft in the wrong places. I told her I had work to finish. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and went to bed with her phone. The glow of the screen followed her down the hall like a phantom. I stayed up until 3 a.m. writing the code. A simple Python script, recursive deletion protocol. It would wipe every shared file, every synced photo, every trace of us stored in the cloud. When it was done, I just stared at the terminal, cursor blinking, waiting for me to hit enter. In the morning, she left for a podcast interview. I watched her walk out in her black Lululemon jacket, phone in hand, talking to her audience before she even reached the car. As soon as the door closed, I pressed enter. The screen flashed once. Then everything started disappearing, images, clips, backups. Years of us, compressed into silence. She sold pieces of us for views. I sold the whole thing for peace. By the time she came back from Starbucks, our history was already gone. She didn't notice at first. That was the strangest part. The world was already so noisy for her that silence didn't register. When she came home, she talked about numbers, views, comments, sponsorships. Her success was a pulse she could measure, and mine was something she forgot to feel. I watched her scroll through her phone like nothing had changed. But in the background, the script had already done its work. The shared drive was empty. The old photos on her iPhone had turned into blank icons. Even the cloud backups were gone. She thought it was a glitch. She laughed and said technology was so unreliable. I didn't correct her. That night, she started another live stream. I sat in the next room, headphones on, but no sound playing. I watched the feed from my monitor, not as a husband this time, but as an observer. Her voice was calm, confident, flirtatious in the way she practiced. Her audience filled the chat with hearts and fire emojis. It was a digital crowd worshiping a digital version of her. Halfway through the stream, she said something that made me stop breathing. She said, "Touch doesn't mean loyalty." Again, the same line from Olive Garden. Only now she said it to thousands of people. They cheered in the comments like it was poetry. I closed the laptop. No anger, no grief, just finality. She had turned our story into content. But I had something she didn't. The ability to vanish without leaving a trail. I packed a single bag, left the house key on the counter, and walked out. No message, no explanation. I drove my truck into the night with nothing but the road ahead. The dashboard clock hit midnight when I turned off my phone. The silence felt heavy at first, almost unbearable. But then it became clean, like stepping out of static into air. For years, I'd been living inside her broadcast, part of the background she curated. Now, I was the blank space she couldn't monetize. By the time she woke up, my accounts were gone. No trace on social media, no status, no seen messages. My phone number returned, user unavailable. The bed was empty, the closet half full. I didn't take everything, just enough to remind her that I existed once. She sold noise. I chose absence. And soon, the silence would start to echo. The first message came 12 hours later. Then another. Then 30 more. Her name on the screen meant nothing now, just data from a system I no longer belonged to. The silence I'd built was working, but I knew her mind was starting to unravel. People like her, who live on constant attention, don't know what to do when no one is watching. She called 3 times, then switched to voice notes. Her tone changed with each one, confused, then defensive, then almost pleading. She said she didn't understand what was happening, that her files were missing, her photos gone, that something was wrong with the cloud. I was in a motel outside Nashville by then, the kind of place where nobody asks for your name if you pay in cash. I sat on the bed with my laptop, not to spy, but to make sure my script had finished running. It had. Every shared trace of our life, erased, decentralized, unrecoverable. Later that day, I got a message from Evan, not to my phone, but to a work email I hadn't checked in months. He wrote like he knew me. "You shouldn't have left her alone," he said. "She's spiraling." I almost laughed. The audacity of a stranger who thought he knew our story. He was just another buyer who mistook fantasy for connection. Still, his words stuck with me. I opened a few of her public channels just to see. Her latest live stream had crashed halfway through. Viewers commented that she looked distracted, that her energy was off. Some said she seemed scared. For the first time, she wasn't performing. She was unraveling in real time. I didn't reply to her messages. I didn't reach out to Evan. I just watched. A man whose job was to prevent breaches now studying the slow collapse of a woman who built her identity on exposure. That night, I sat outside the motel with a cup of lukewarm coffee from McDonald's, watching the neon signs buzz in the dark. I thought about how quiet it was. No pings, no alerts, no noise. Just air and the hum of traffic. Somewhere across the map, she was still trying to find me. But I wasn't hiding. I was simply gone. And for the first time in years, she had no audience left to explain that silence to. It didn't take long for the story to spread. In her world, everything becomes content eventually, even loss. Within a week, she was online again, this time crying on camera, saying she'd been betrayed by someone she loved. She didn't say my name, but everyone knew. Her fans rallied around her, blaming me, calling me controlling, toxic, insecure. It was easier for them to paint me as the villain than to admit they'd been paying for someone else's intimacy. I watched from a distance. Not with hate, just clarity. She was performing grief the way she used to perform love. Every tear was perfectly framed, every pause calculated for sympathy. And yet, behind her eyes, I could see it, the panic. The algorithm couldn't save her from silence. Then came the sponsors. One by one, they started disappearing. The same brands that filled her shelves with products and promises, Target candles, Starbucks mugs, Lululemon packages, suddenly stopped tagging her. Her numbers dropped, her engagement slowed. The attention that once fueled her started turning cold. A friend from her old circle reached out to me on LinkedIn. She said Lena had been distant, paranoid, that she'd fired her manager, closed her Discord channel, and barely left the house. She said Lena was talking about me, about how I ghosted her into non-existence. I didn't respond. There was nothing to explain. One evening, curiosity got the better of me. I checked her news stream. She sat in the same room, but the energy was gone. No filters, no lights. Just her voice, low, tired. She told her followers she was taking a break to find herself. The comments were mostly pity now. The donations were gone. She tried to monetize her silence, to make mystery the new product. But real silence doesn't sell. It infects. It lingers. It reminds you what's real. I closed the tab and leaned back, the faint glow of the screen fading from my eyes. She was learning what I already knew. Attention isn't affection. Validation isn't connection. She'd spent years selling the illusion of closeness to strangers, and now she was finally alone with herself. No filters, no noise. That was the real consequence. Not exposure, but isolation. And for someone who lived on being seen, there's no punishment colder than being invisible. Months passed before I saw her again, by accident. A conference in Atlanta, Cybersecurity Summit. I was presenting a paper on digital identity collapse. The irony didn't escape me. During a break, I stopped at a Starbucks inside the convention center. She was there, standing in line, hood up, sunglasses on, holding her phone like a shield. She looked smaller, not physically, but in presence. The glow was gone. She'd always had that confident rhythm, that constant hum of self-importance. Now she moved like someone who didn't want to be recognized. I stayed behind a few people, watching her reflection in the glass. She ordered quietly, paid with cash, and sat by the window. No live stream, no photos, just a paper cup and her silence. I could have walked up to her. I didn't. Instead, I watched her scroll through an empty account. No followers, no messages, just archived memories she couldn't erase. She was living inside the absence I'd left behind. And somehow, she still couldn't look away. When she finally noticed me, it wasn't surprise that crossed her face. It was relief. Like seeing something familiar in a city that forgot your name. She didn't move, just stared, eyes full of everything she never said. I nodded once, just enough to acknowledge her. Then I turned and walked away. No confrontation, no words, just distance. That night in my hotel room, I couldn't sleep. Not because I missed her, but because I realized what she'd become, a ghost of her own design. She used to sell fantasy. Now she was living in one, replaying the story of a love she once converted into revenue. The next morning, I opened my inbox. A new message from an unknown address. You were right. Touch did mean loyalty. I just learned too late. There was no name, but I didn't need one. The message wasn't for forgiveness. It was confession. I closed my laptop without replying. The conference went on. I gave my talk about the danger of exposure, about how oversharing creates its own extinction. The audience clapped, but my mind was elsewhere. Somewhere, in a quiet apartment, she was probably watching the same cursor blink on her own screen. And for the first time, she finally understood the language of silence. After Atlanta, she started showing up in places I didn't expect, quietly, almost like a shadow. Not physically, but through traces. A follow request from a new account with no profile picture. A delivery order I hadn't placed showing up at my office. A playlist shared anonymously on Spotify titled, Remember When. All of it subtle, none of it desperate. She wasn't trying to invade my space. She was trying to exist inside it again. I ignored everything. Not out of cruelty, but preservation. I'd built peace out of silence, and I wasn't going to trade it for nostalgia. Still, at night, when the apartment was too quiet, I caught myself wondering how she was surviving without the crowd. People like her needed noise like oxygen. A few weeks later, an industry friend sent me a link. You'll want to see this, he said. I almost didn't click, but curiosity always wins. It was a podcast interview. Her, sitting in a minimalist studio, no makeup, no filters. The title read, I monetized my marriage. The host asked her if she regretted anything. She paused for a long time before saying, yes, but not for the reasons people think. I used to sell connection, but I never gave any. He gave everything and asked for nothing, and I didn't notice until the silence came. Her voice cracked near the end, not from performance this time, but exhaustion. She wasn't selling sadness anymore. She was living it. I turned off the video halfway through. I didn't need to hear the rest. Some truths don't need an audience. Later that week, I drove to a diner outside the city. Same booth I used to sit in before everything fell apart. The waitress recognized me, smiled, and said I looked lighter. I realized she was right. The version of me that once lived for control had learned something in the quiet, that not every betrayal needs exposure, and not every ending needs revenge. As I paid the bill, I glanced at my phone. One new message from her anonymous account. Just 5 words. I finally stopped performing. No emojis. No plea. Just closure. For the first time, I didn't delete it. I let it stay there, unread but seen. Some messages deserve to exist without response. I didn't hear from her for months after that message. Her name faded from headlines. Her channels went dark, and the internet moved on. That's the thing about fame. It doesn't end. It just forgets you. I assumed she'd finally found peace or disappeared completely. Either way, it wasn't my story anymore. Then one morning, I opened my inbox and saw a subject line that froze me. Final upload. The sender's address looked familiar but not exact. It had been altered, anonymized. My first instinct was to delete it. But something in me, maybe curiosity or unfinished gravity, made me click. The video was less than 2 minutes long. No music, no edits. Just her sitting in front of an empty wall, her hair pulled back, eyes red but clear. She said she wasn't coming back to social media, that she'd spent years mistaking visibility for meaning, that she used to think love was something you could outsource, replicate, monetize, but it wasn't. And then she said my name. Not as a question, not as a plea, just as a fact, quiet and steady. She said, "You were the one who understood silence before I did." The video ended there. No sign-off, no outro, no platform logo. Just static. I sat still for a long time. The silence felt different this time. Not cold, not sharp, just complete. Whatever she was doing now, it was far from the chaos she used to chase. Maybe she had finally learned what it meant to live without an audience. That night, I took my car out for a long drive. No GPS, no music, just the hum of the engine and the road stretching into the dark. Somewhere between the highway lights and the empty exits, I realized something simple. I didn't want her back. I wanted the version of myself that stopped needing to be seen through her. The world she built had collapsed, but she'd survived it. And I had too. Not as her ghost, not as her memory, but as someone who chose stillness over noise. I parked by the lake we used to visit years ago. The water was still. The reflection of the moon looked like a reset button waiting to be pressed. For the first time since I left, I didn't feel like disappearing. I'd already done that. Now I was ready to exist again, quietly, deliberately, and on my own terms. A year passed before I saw her again, and it wasn't in person. I was scrolling through the news feed while waiting for a flight when her name appeared in a small article buried under the entertainment section. It said she'd started a consulting agency for creators, teaching them how to protect their mental health in a digital economy. No scandals, no drama, just quiet professionalism. The photo attached showed her in a simple black dress, no filters, no posing. Her face looked older, but lighter. I stared at it longer than I meant to. The plane boarded, but I didn't move. I thought about the woman she used to be, the one who lived through a camera lens, whose self-worth was measured in hearts and views. And I thought about the one in that photo, sitting behind a desk instead of a ring light. It didn't feel like redemption. It felt like truth. When I landed, there was a message waiting for me. Unknown number. Just one line. I don't need an audience to say thank you. No name, but I knew. I didn't respond. I just smiled, saved it, and closed my phone. Some stories don't need sequels. They need silence to breathe. Weeks later, I drove past the old house. The yard was overgrown, the mailbox still dented, the windows bare. The Target candle she once lit every night was gone from the porch. For a moment, I parked across the street, remembering the sound of her laugh before everything turned into content. The memories didn't hurt anymore. They just existed, archived in a part of me that no longer needed deleting. I walked down to the edge of the street, watched the sunset reflect off the glass. The world kept moving, and so did I. She had turned regret into something useful, and I had turned absence into peace. Maybe that was the closest thing to closure either of us would ever get. As I got back into the car, I whispered the same words I told her the night I left. Not for her this time, but for myself. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. And as the engine started and the city lights blurred in the rear view, I realized she wasn't my story anymore. She was just the proof that silence, when chosen, is louder than any apology ever spoken. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.